This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by the Miracle Man, Danny Jacobs, here in Turkey. Danny, it's good to see you. Obviously, briefly bumped into each other at the airport last night. But how are you? How are you finding Turkey?
I'm doing great. I'm finding Turkey to be very amazing. To my surprise, it is as glamorous as it was anticipated to be due to the pictures, people telling me to always come out here, so to have opportunity to be out here stress-free without any pressures of fighting, it feels good.
Obviously, we've got the IBA Pro event on the horizon. What are you looking forward to from seeing from IBA Pro?
Well, I'm really happy to be on the side of not fighting and being on the side of people in the background, people on the team, the broadcast, right? Like on the back skirts, like not actually active, right? I get a chance to play that role and to experience that. Like for years, my coach used to tell me, do so many different hard things, all the while eating a sandwich, or he'd go home and he could drink. And so he has the good life, and the sacrifice has always been on me. So now I get to enjoy the coach side or the opposite side of things, which is cool.
I've interviewed you on a few occasions in the past, Danny, and one thing I've always found from the end of those talks is how informative you are and how precise and analytical you are. How much are you enjoying, as you say, life away from taking those punches and instead being able to watch other people take those punches?
Yeah. It's cool. I mean, I think for me, it feels good to actually have been a boxer, to know what I'm talking about, and to like actually know I'm giving the world something that is from experience, where they could be receptive to, rather just like, oh, I don't agree with this guy. This guy don't know what he's talking about. Guys really don't really know what they're talking about. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like a lot of these broadcasters, they're good, but it's just like over time seeing fighters be performing and being able to take little notes, but to be in there is to know. And so I take pride in being one of those guys that when I know the fans hear what I have to say, it's respected.
Do you pay much attention to boxing Twitter? No. Yeah, definitely don't get involved in that, Danny, if you don't value people who opinions can be very wild.
Listen, I've been there a few years ago, the first time I started commentating, and people were very critical in their opinions. So I try to best, with this new form of career or just opportunity, I don't want to let anyone kind of get into my head when it comes to being critical. Right? I'm already a big critic of myself, so I analyze, I think I see things I can do better. But this point of being receptive to other people's, especially the boxing Twitter, no, I'm good.
Danny, as I said to you just before we start this interview, you're in quite good shape still.
Yes, sir.
Are you missing the physical side to the sport?
You know, I'm missing it. But I think the only thing that I'm missing is actual fight night and what that all breeds. What I really don't miss is like the sacrifice that the months of training takes away from your family or your freedom and just the hard work. I mean, I love Ali. He gave me one of the best quotes that I lived with throughout my whole career. If you sacrifice now, right, you'll be able to live the rest of your life like a king. So, but Muhammad Ali even hated training. He even hated running and all of these different things, but it was just necessary. And to be a champ, you got to embody what's necessary, not what you desire.
I mean, as you mentioned there, one of the greats, Muhammad Ali, Danny, but even then when you consider the sport, how dangerous it is, we've had many people die in the ring, many people who suffered life-changing injuries. When you can now look back on it, do you ever look back and think, on another occasion, it might not have worked out? I mean, obviously you had your cancer battle, which is away from the ring, but even then, like life and death scenarios.
Yeah, I thought about that all the time. God rest his soul, my friend Patrick Day, Pritchard Cologne. I think there was another boxer that I knew that passed away within these last 10 years. So I've experienced trauma within the sport, understanding that every time I step in that ring, it's a possibility, right? And so for me, I think like being retired now and having a fan come up to me and say, I appreciate what you've done, even if they don't break it down to the point of saying, you put your life on the line just for our entertainment. Like, we had a party, we was drinking, we were getting drunk, didn't care nothing about the fight, but it was entertaining, right? And so for me, it's just like, I equate that to, for me, knowing what I did it for, it's accepted, it's received, and to me, that means the world, because even though I'm successful, and that's because of the fans, like, it's also a heartfelt connection that you want them to know what I'm sacrificing and why I'm sacrificing it. Not just for money, but for your entertainment, for the beauty and the love of the sport, you know?
What would you like to be remembered for, Danny?
I would love to be remembered as someone who beat the odds, but also someone who is a symbol of hope, for sure. Yeah, my Miracle Man name is even, you know, to me, like the biggest accomplishment, because for me to switch it from the Golden Child when I first started to the Miracle Man was, for me, a symbol of hope. Even me, I inspired myself throughout that whole process because I couldn't believe where I was able to continuously grow to. And so I would want to be remembered as a miracle, but also somebody that believed in himself and took control of his reality and saw it through.
Do you ever look back yourself, Danny, and do you ever feel amazing in your own strength and your own will and desire to defeat cancer in the manner you did, and you came back, you became a world champion, you fought the likes of Canelo and Golovkin after what you had to come through? Do you ever look back and think, damn, I had something different about me?
That is true. And you know, it's crazy because I get chills even just thinking about it, because I would think it was like a month ago. So I really don't like, not that I don't like to, but I don't really watch a lot of my highlights of all of my fights. But it was just maybe a few months ago that I was watching a Golovkin highlight. And I was just like, who the hell is this guy? Like, just the embodiment that I had and the nature, and thinking too where I was at that point in my life post-cancer, to come into the dog, to come into the reality of I'm the man, I could do anything I set my mind to. Like, it gave me chills, and I was just like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, yo, but this is me. Like, every day I think too, I surprise myself with who I'm able to be, or just how I show up for myself. Yeah.
Your story, without a shadow of a doubt, will have inspired millions and many people who will be suffering from something similar currently, Danny. But when you reflect on that period and when you was going through it, what was you saying to yourself to keep yourself going, to keep yourself motivated, and keep your eyes on that end goal?
Yeah. So I think, like, naturally you come to a point where there's like depression or doubt that naturally kicks in. But for me, because boxing was so ingrained into my nature, that the systematic way of being successful is you sacrifice something, you have a goal, you do all the things that's necessary, hard work, dedication, all of the good stuff, and then you are able to apply it to become successful. Every time I was able to be systematically together with the process, I've always came out successful. Yeah. So for me, when the doctors told me I could never box again, it was like almost like an instinctual nature embodiment in me that I knew I was going to. Like, I just knew there was nothing no one could tell me that is going to make me see myself outside of the life that I desire. And so it was a knowing. And I think, too, that was the mindset that not only was beneficial to me, but I think that's the mindset that people need to have when it comes to anything that they do in life. Like, you need to know, right? We live in this one reality, right? But there are so many different other realities that I believe we exist on as well. And there's a version of you in different parts of those different realities that all you need to do is just kind of tap into to be able to have within your current reality. So me knowing that my life was destined for greatness, and that is becoming champion, that is beating the odds, proving everyone wrong, and knowing that I belong. So it was that knowing that allowed me to truly get to the point, right, of becoming champ.
When you defeated Derevyanchenko, became fully fledged champion after your battles, could you sum up or summarise that overriding sense of emotion you'd have felt to become a champion after everything you've been through?
I don't think it would have been the same. That was a very key win for me too. Very tough guy, very knowledgeable of my style. He was gym mates with me for a while. So going into it, I knew it was going to be challenging, but based off of the dynamics, I think it was like what was the opportunity when you're both not champion and like you fight for the belt?
Vacant belt.
Vacant. Okay, yeah. So the belt was vacant, and it was just a right opportunity for me to go for it. Because I don't think typically, if it was up to me, that we probably would have fought each other, given the history. But it was a great opportunity. I took advantage of it, and I became successful. And it just was another stamp or check within me that I belong.
As you mentioned, Sergiy Derevyanchenko, a very tough and gritty fighter, very well schooled as well with his style. But when you can come through a test like that, and when you go on with, with those fights around like the Golovkins and the Canelos, how would you look back on? Let's just start off with say Canelo. How would you reflect on your Canelo fight?
Well, the Canelo fight was a little bit different. Obviously, it was the biggest fight, right, on paper. The biggest lucrative fight and the biggest fight as far as like my reputation and all of the good stuff. Looking back on that fight, I think that had I've had the best opportunity to be wholesome, and what I mean by that is like, obviously we know there was a weight cut. Obviously we know that there was like an IBF rule, that there's a second day weigh-in. Like, I would be remiss, and I hate to keep bringing it up, but it's the truth. Like, I don't think that physically I was 100%. Mentally, camp was good, everything was good, but that second day weigh-in. So imagine, like, you're going 3 months of just trying to make 160, and then you gotta kind of scope how you eat. I drunk not even a half a gallon of water, right? 3, 4, 5 pounds just off of water. I mean, it was a lot. So I just said, I have to do what I have to do. Sacrificed $1 million because I said it's going to be too much for me to try to lose this weight, knowing that I was going to miss the second day weigh-in because it was just too much strain on my body. So I just wish that that wasn't a factor. But given how important that fight was, if the sacrifice was met and I was able to be successful on paper by the judges, even though it was a very controversial fight anyway, right? Regardless of what, it was a sacrifice. And I know the sport of boxing, sometimes you got to have the odds stacked up against you. And so in order to be a miracle, or in order to be successful, you got to take those chances. You're going to come up short because it's the odds, but it's a beautiful sacrifice to make.
I mean, you talk about the financial element of what came with missing weight, but do you also look back at, more recently rather, Chris Eubank Jr. was 0.5 of an ounce over, and he had a £500,000 fine. What do you make when you see something like that, such a minute figure?
Well, shout out to Keith Connolly, which is my manager, but I think he is the king of being able to make a fighter pay for losing that weight. So the cool story, right? When I missed the weight and I didn't make the second day weigh-in, I think I was like 163. I was supposed to be it was something like that. But I missed weight. So Canelo said, I'm not fighting if he doesn't pay $1 million. Fuck. That's what I said, right? I said, fuck it. I need to be 100% for this fight. F the million, I'm already making life-changing money, right? So that was my mindset. It was a big sacrifice already within the dynamics of the fight, but it was even more bigger sacrifice for me to give that up. But the glory of being successful outweighed all of that. So I just wanted to make sure that I was at least like the best that I could be that night. Yeah.
With the fight itself, how would you look back on it?
I would say that it was, to me knowing me, it was totally apparent that the physical was tampered. And it was a very close fight. But I just know how sharp I am. I know like certain punches that I slip and I avoid, or just my endurance, like all of those things was compromised. But even still, Canelo was a dog, so he still made it hard. It wasn't like an easy task whatsoever. Regardless to how it turned out, it was a sacrifice worth it because of what it done for my career, what it done for my life, and the legacy that it's allowing me to set for the fans to be able to like, yo, he is one of the best of his generation. That's all I desire.
I'm sure I won't be the first person to ask about it. Obviously, you've got a big fight on the horizon between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. Your opinion will be as valid as anybody's who I can think of. What do you make of it? And since Canelo's fight with William Skull, has that performance altered or changed your opinion at all?
I don't think Canelo's last fight changed or altered my opinion. I just think that it shows more flaws when it comes to the narrative that Canelo is kind of like untouchable, or Canelo is a dog. And in the same breath, he is just that, right? But at the same time, it's like we expect so much from a fighter that when it's time for them to display certain things, we give them passes, or like we kind of like, oh well, he's Canelo, he's done so much in the past, like it's okay that he didn't put the pedal to the metal, or he didn't cut the ring off and like press the action. Because if we really think about it, holding high expectations of a guy like that is because he can either do it, he's been doing it, or we expect it from him. Regardless to what, all of these things, this is why he's our guy. So when he don't show up for us in that capacity, we at least have to say something. I know that there's always like bad fights, styles make fights, and of course that guy was like doing the do, you know? And so I get it, but in the same breath, you still have to somewhat hold him accountable.
Do you see a version now of Canelo Alvarez that is slowing down and on the decline, or do you think it's harsh when people suggest that?
I don't think it's harsh, because Father Time waits for no one, and you know he's always on time. You know, I can see moments in certain fights where I can maybe see a decline, but then there'll be another fight where he'll just like, you know, and I'm just like, oh, there go Canelo, you know, and so it's like styles make fights to me when it comes to him at this moment in his career.
With this fight with Terence Crawford, how do you see it playing out?
I would hope it plays out. Just Crawford being successful and having his hands raised at the end of the day. But how it actually is going to go, I just have to sit back, watch as a fan, in hopes that it could be just as entertaining as a Mickey Ward, Gotti, or, you know, one of the best fights and duels that we've seen.
I mean, when you mention that, you know, you sit back and you hope that it's Terence's night. Let's say if it was to go to the cards and you think Terence has done enough.
Yeah.
As a fighter, what goes through your mind when you're waiting on it? And in the past, there have been a number of questionable decisions. A lot of people questioning previous Canelo results.
Yeah.
So what goes through a fighter's mind when you're waiting for those scorecards?
Well, you got to separate what goes through the average fighter mind and then what goes through the mind of somebody that's facing a guy like Canelo. Because we also got to understand boxing and the impact that it has on the officials, the judging, and just there's always controversy in boxing. So we got to enter that fact. We can't just ignore it. So for myself, as I'm waiting for the results, right? And then there's time and space, and I think one thing that came to my mind that was like a negative thing was like, oh, the fix is in. You know, they're taking forever with this decision. Like, you know, it's either going to be a landscape or is this going to be just enough for Canelo to have won, you know? And so then there's that. That's one thing that goes through a fighter mind in a fight of that magnitude. Is the fix in against me? Are the judges being fair? Did anything that the ref did influence it? Like all of these things you think about, but just knowing that you've done enough to win the fight, it's probably like the last thing you think about.
Just a couple more from me, Danny, because I know you've got a few other interviews to do.
Yeah.
When you look back on the Golovkin fight, how would you reflect on that one?
Badass, man. Yeah. Badass. I showed up for myself. I was able to prove to myself, not just the world, because we did that, right? But to myself. I think there was a lack of doubt based off of me being critical of myself, always saying that I could be better, I'm not enough, until I actually got in there with somebody who was hyped up to be everything and more. And then the way that I showed up, it gave me the confidence like no other.
Another man you shared the ring with, and he retired early from the sport, and he's earlier in your career, Dmitry Pirog.
Yeah.
I just want to get your thoughts on how talented of a fighter he was, your reflections on your fight with him, and if he wasn't to have retired as early as he did, how far do you think he would have gone in the boxing game?
Well, first off, shout out to Pirog.
Yeah.
Hell of a fighter back then. And it's also crazy, too, just like how the both of our lives panned out. Us fighting early on for the championship, me leaving the sport because of a back cancer problem, him going on to be more successful, and then now his career had ended short because of a back scenario. and then I go on and continue to be more successful and resurrect that loss into something that was inspiring. But Pirog would have been a dog. Pirog would have been a beast. For his boxing mindset and IQ, top tier. Yeah, top
Would
tier.
he have beaten Golovkin?
I don't think he would have beaten Golovkin, to be honest, because Golovkin was a force, and styles make fights. I have over 180 amateur fights, so I've been in there with every kind of style. I kind of know what styles mesh together well with each other, and I just think that even though Pirog is more talented based off of everything that's within his roster, right? Golovkin just has that sheer power, the ring IQ, cutting off, just mental pressure, right? That's a thing in itself, because people don't even understand. Well, you can't keep, excuse my language, well, you can't keep a motherfucker off you. You just like, damn, you get mentally tired, right? And so he has that too. So he's just multifaceted. But Pirog definitely would have been a beast. I could have seen him beating a lot of top tier guys. But personally, when it comes to Golovkin, yeah, I don't know. Based off of styles. Yeah.
Talk about styles. Do you think your style would match up with Jake Paul's if an offer was ever to be floated to you?
Jake Paul. I think so. Yeah. But most importantly, me taking that fight, it wouldn't be to prove anything. It would be to go in there to have fun, to give the fans another showing of me and what all I breathe. But like this Jake Paul show is just like, I'm a fan of it, like, you know, no hate whatsoever, but it's just entertainment to me. I don't know how serious to like take it, even though I'm support of him getting better and better, improving the odds and being able to say like, hey, I'm not just a YouTuber guy, like I'm actually dedicated to it, which we have seen, getting better and better over time, which we have seen. But most importantly, like that stain of the YouTuber, the stain of his life outside the ring, to me, maybe takes away from the ultimate respect he's looking for.
What do you think it takes for that respect to come in? What level of opponent do you think he needs? So, for example, he fought Tommy Fury, fell short. He's been calling out Canelo, Gervonta Davis, amongst others. But is it maybe facing somebody who might have retired more recently, or an active fighter at a high level? Is there anybody in particular who you think, if he was to fight him, you would say, okay, fair enough, he's showing his
but
work.
Like, my question though, like, what ranking system is he following?
Well, he's number 14 with the WBA now.
Okay, so he actually made it to be ranked now, because I'm just like, when you're fighting multiple exhibitions, right, is that even placing you in the rankings? And just like, you can't say I want to fight 5 exhibitions and then call out Canelo and think that that's going to, because the way that even boxing works, you're not going to be eligible to like be in that type of position. But it's good to hear that he's ranked. It's good to hear that he's actually now in the sport on a real basis, rather than it just being like a 4-rounder or rules with, you know, Mike Tyson and like all of these different fragments of just like, bro, this is not competitive boxing, you know?
Well, guys, you heard it here first. The golden child versus the problem child to come to you at some point in the near future. Danny, it's a pleasure to catch up with you. Enjoy the rest of your time here, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
That was bang on, Danny. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, man. That was awesome.